6:04, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, starting off at 66 degrees in downtown Baton Rouge. Mornings with Brian Haldane coming your way right now. Brian here with you. John LaBeouf producing. Oh, what a busy show we got today. We're going to be talking, we got our Medical Monday coming your way, as we do every Monday. We're going to talk with Mary Beth Hughes-Derrickson from La B in the 7 o'clock hour. A little educational recap on the year. Talking about everything under the sun with Moon. Moon Griffon comes your way at 8:15 this morning. And, I saw an interesting story last week that I wanted to follow up on. How are traditional auto dealerships doing, new and used, versus all the online stuff that you could do? Turns out not too bad. Coulter McMahen heads up the Louisiana Auto Dealers Association. He's going to join us in the 8 o'clock hour as well. And yes, we are going to talk a lot about what happened downtown on Saturday night. In fact, that's one of our top stories. So let's get right to top stories and trending.
Number 5.
A man who went missing on Saturday was found safe Sunday evening. The man, who suffers from dementia, went missing from an address on Greenwell Springs Road Saturday afternoon. After East Baton Rouge Parish deputies sent out a media advisory, he was found on Sunday evening, and that is all the information they put out about the whole story.
Number 4.
The Tennessee-based company that manages East Baton Rouge Parish school properties is trying again to increase their current deal by nearly $1 million 4 months after their first request was set aside. The Parish School Board is expected to consider this renewed request when they meet on Thursday. HES Facilities Management of Knoxville is seeking an additional $960,000, calling it a 4% cost of living adjustment so they could further boost pay for their workers and direct more money to subcontractors to do the same for their employees. If this request is approved, the money would increase the price of HES's services to almost $25 million a year.
Number 3.
It was a violent weekend in Baton Rouge. The next 3 stories are all about shootings. 3 people were hurt in a Friday night shooting along Choctaw Drive near the corner of North 38th Street. The Baton Rouge Police Department said the 3 people, aged 17, 23, and 65, were shot around 9:40 p.m. Officers said all the victims were in separate cars. It's unclear where the shots came from. Police are investigating. No more information was made immediately available.
Number 2.
41-year-old Derwin James was killed and a 10-year-old boy were injured after being shot while inside a vehicle on North Acadian Thruway at Fairfields Avenue. Officials said a child was transported in stable condition with non-life-threatening injuries at North Acadian and Fairfields, while another person was transported in critical condition. That person later died. That would be Derwin James. According to BRPD, James tried to leave the area after the shooting, but crashed in the 2300 block of Pawnee Street after passing out behind the wheel. BRPD also confirmed this dispute was domestic in nature.
Number 1.
Absolute mayhem after the Christmas parade downtown. 2 people were injured. 2 people were injured after a shooting on River Road in downtown Baton Rouge by the USS Kidd Museum, according to emergency officials. The shooting was reported around 7:22 p.m. 1 person was injured with gunshot wounds to the back. Another was hit by an ATV fleeing the scene. It happened just as the Christmas parade was ending in that section. The parade wasn't done overall, but ending by the River Center. According to people at the scene when it happened, participants of the parade and parade goers started running as the gunshots rang out. Crime scene tape was wrapped all over the scene just across the street, which was just across the street from the Raising Cane's River Center. We're going to dive back into this at 6:25. Yours truly was emceeing the Battle of the Bands for the parade. And that meant I was posted up directly across the street from where this happened. Hey, look, I'm not going to audibly clickbait the audience. I left about 15 minutes before it happened. So I wasn't on the scene at the time the shots rang out. I went back and talked to a number of people who were, or I went circled back and talked to a number of people who were. So I was like, I wasn't there at the time of the shots, but I've got a really good picture of what went down.
Well, we can add Bernie Sanders to the list of folks who have a problem with Joe Biden's pardon of Hunter.
Yeah. Bernie Sanders saying this is a dangerous precedent. Not just about Hunter, but about Dr. Fauci as well.
Yeah. Surprised it's coming from Bernie, right?
I'm really not. of everything that, well, because he wants to see, how do I put this?
Right.
He also said in the same interview that the U.S. has become an oligarchy, and we just have ruling class families at this point. And he's not necessarily wrong.
Right.
Whether, if you drop your right versus left politics, that's where we're at.
Yeah. In other news, the drone sightings up the Atlantic coast are moving to the category of drone closings. Drone activity forced runways at New York's Stewart Airfield to shut down Friday night, according to Governor Kathy
Hochul. Kathy Hochul. And we're going to have Jim Ryan from ABC News on about this at 6:35 as the folks in New Jersey want more information.
Yeah.
The folks in New York are already taking action with shutting down runways and whatnot. But now it's spreading to where you've got Virginia and Maryland that are threatening to take further action, like call out their own National Guard or activate their own National Guard. So this is getting to be a bigger and bigger problem, and the answer seems to be, it's no big deal. Or no, sorry, we're on it. Oh, okay.
Eventually, yeah. In sports news here, Louisiana Tech will square off against Army in this year's Independence Bowl after Marshall had to bail.
Okay. This is probably my favorite story of the day for multiple reasons.
Yeah.
Number one, good. Louisiana Tech gets to drive right up the road to Shreveport to play in a bowl game against Army. And it actually should be a decent matchup. Number two, I'm glad that the Independence Bowl was able to find a new opponent for Army after Marshall had to bail. Now, the Marshall story behind this is amazing for multiple reasons. Number one, remember when LSU played the Texas Bowl a couple of years ago and literally lined up a wide receiver at quarterback? That's kind of the situation Marshall was looking at. They've had 35 guys or 36 guys enter the transfer portal. It's baffling.
Okay.
Now, where are those 36 guys going to land? Probably all over the place, but I'm sure more than a handful of them are going to end up in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, where Marshall's former coach has left to take the job at Southern Miss, who is a conference foe. This is such an amazing, there's so many layers to this story, and the fact that we're about to be Golden Eagle families in the Haldane household is even better.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm all in on the Independence Bowl this year. Let's go Louisiana Tech. Let's go Bulldogs. But, beyond that, everything else that has transpired to this point is just, it's the best and the worst of where college football is today.
Right. So good, man. So good.
612, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. We need to take a quick break. When we come back from that break, sports time. We'll recap what the Saints did yesterday, or what the Saints almost did yesterday. And LSU women's basketball was at it as well, taking on UL Lafayette. Both of those coming your way next. Did I send you the highlights? I want 3.3. And piss. What did I just do?
Is it Muffalatos?
It's Muffalatos. Yeah. There's two different commercials airing right now that calls them Muffaletas. I need a Jersey Wolfenburger highlight as well. Wolfenbarger, excuse me.
Which one is that one? Is that 1.4?
Give me 1.1. Problem is I haven't listened to them. $2.2, please. 2.2 and 3.3.
2.2. Okay.
6:16 coming up on 6 to 1:17 at Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. It is time for sports. LSU women were back at it yesterday. We'll get to that in just a minute. First, though, head down to the Dome where the Saints fell 1 point short of pulling off a huge come-from-behind win over the Washington Commanders. 20-19, your final score there. The second most disappointing 20-19 in Saints history. The other one it involved a miraculous kickoff return with multiple laterals versus the Jacksonville Jaguars a billion years ago, and then John Carney missed the extra point. Not to worry. Saints trailed 17-0 in the third quarter, and then the offense just comes alive. Spencer Rattler replaced Jake Haener. Rattler threw a touchdown pass on the final play of regulation to get that 20-19 score. Interim coach Darren Rizzi decided to go for two instead of tying things up and going to overtime.
AK had gone out. He was out for the game. MVS got banged up. We started to lose more offensive weapons. You guys felt the momentum shift there at the end. Listen, I don't regret it whatsoever. I don't think the players regret it. They're all in favor of it. And so I just thought it was the right thing.
And yeah, you never look, history favors the aggressor, right? I think we're at a spot right now, especially with this Saints team, where who cares? Go for it. It's more fun. Let's just have that intensity for just a hot second and kind of ride the fun for a little bit. And yeah, he does make a good point when evaluating everything. Do you want to go to overtime without Alvin Kamara? Because Kamara went out with an injury, injured his groin in the fourth quarter, didn't come back. By the way, Haener started, only completed 4 passes. Rattler comes in, completes just shy of 50% of his passes, 10 for 21 for 135 yards. Rizzi talks about why he made the change.
You know, we felt like we needed to make a change there at halftime. We did. Spencer did a great job, came in, provided some spark. But not only that, we played, we only gave up 6 points in the second half, which gave us a chance to win. But as I just told the team, we needed one more play, and unfortunately we dug too big of a hole there in the first half.
Yeah, another heartbreaker for the Saints. Okay, we got 1 minute till we hit Fox News. The Fox Business Report. All right, not enough time to dive into the LSU highlights. We might get to those in our next segment. Tigers win 85-57 over the UL Lafayette Raging Cajuns. Moving over to high school football, things wrapped up on Saturday with 2 blowouts, so much so that they had running clocks in the second half of the game. Edna Carr, who beat Catholic High by a squeaker in the semifinal, goes on to beat Alexandria Senior High 53-8. And then how about a shout-out for Central High in the Division I non-select game? Central posts up a 42-0 win, 42-0 over Ruston. To take home their first state title in like a billion years. So go ahead, Wildcats, get after it. It is 6:20 at Talk 107.3 FM. Let's go ahead and check the Fox Business Report. We're going to do just the Wolfenbarger highlight. Westbound. Hey, I recorded this spot the other day. Love me some Tim Temple, man. Yep. Did I see a text come through? I did. Good morning, Christy. All right, we got to start you up on I-10 westbound, where there is an accident on 10 West, just west of the College Drive exit. That is backing things up pretty significantly to about the 10-12. Well, the 10-12 merge is where it'll start up there. So, I mean, you have the mix of driving through the construction, and then you add the accident on top of it. You're definitely going to be on the brakes a lot more than you are the gas pedal, to be sure. So, be very careful going through that area. Now, also on I-12 westbound by Airline, we're looking at a crash that's been moved off the roadway. It's like I said, I-12 in between Sherwood and Airline, getting more specific on that one. Not causing nearly the delays that the other crash is causing further up by College. Now, backing things up to 12 westbound by Denham, you are going to find a little bit heavier than normal volume getting on 12 West at the Range Avenue on-ramp. Over on 10 westbound, we're looking good coming in from Ascension Parish. 10 eastbound's looking good coming in from West Baton Rouge Parish. Hopping off your interstates, looking at your surface streets, there's only one accident to report right now, although it is close to an interstate. If you're headed to the airport this morning, you might want to, or headed to Southern University or the airport this morning, you might want to take note. There's a crash. It has since been moved off the roadway. Harding Boulevard, right near I-110, right near Veterans Memorial Boulevard. So be on the lookout for that one as well. And that's your look at traffic from the Shaw Bills Tire Traffic Center. .625 at Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. The LSU women's basketball team moves to 12-0 on the season after beating UL Lafayette 85-57 yesterday. I wanted to follow up with this because we're seeing something a little bit different from LSU this year in that they're showing a lot more depth. And this is going to come into play in conference play and tournament play eventually. Yesterday, the Tigers were not led in scoring by Flaugier Johnson. She had 11. They were not led in scoring by Nisa Morrow. She had 15 and 15 boards. They were not led in scoring by Michaela Williams, who had 12. They were not led in scoring by Kaylin Gilbert, who had 14. They were led in scoring by Jersey Wolfenbarger, who had 18 points and 15 boards. Of those 18 points, let's hear one on a run out.
20-13. Poa long up ahead. Wolfenbarger,
Guess
nobody
who?
guarded her, and she laid it in.
Great job by Jersey running the floor.
Don't know how you leave her alone.
Yeah. Don't know how she got there into the fast, too.
Yeah, well, that too. She's hard to miss. 22-13. Jersey's got 12 of them.
Patrick Wright and Shada Williams on the call for the LSU Sports Radio Network. The Tigers will play next tomorrow night. Tomorrow afternoon, I guess I should say. 5 p.m. tip-off versus Seton Hall. It is 6:26 at Talk 107.3 FM. Got to remind you about the folks over at Parish Construction and Roofing. ParishBuilt.com is the website. ParishBuilt.com. Do you have roof damage? Do you even know if you have roof damage? Now's a great time, y'all. We got a light chance of rain in the forecast today. There's going to be a lot of cloud cover over the next couple days, but Now would be a great time to get Parrish up on your roof to find out if you've got damage, if you need repairs, or if you need a whole new roof. This is what I did, okay? I hopped on parrishbuilt.com, filled out the little form. I got them out to my house. They got up on my roof. They showed me all the evidence, man. They brought receipts. I got to look firsthand at just how bad my roof was with someone who could explain to me what I was looking at. So I said, okay, guys, let's get a new roof. From that time, they have walked me through the process from start to finish, and it has been nothing short of amazing. You are listening to one very happy customer right now. Look, their tagline is do business with someone you know, and I absolutely love that because it means so much. Look, when storm season rolls through, do business with someone you know means do business with someone who's going to be here tomorrow, not somebody rolling through with a truck from out of town. But it also means do business with someone you can rely on, someone you can call on, someone who will call you back. It's Parrish Construction and Roofing, 364-1007 or parrishbuilt.com. What are our stories in top stories and trending? In fact, the number one story. 2 people were injured after a shooting on River Road in downtown Baton Rouge by the USS Kidd Museum, according to emergency officials. That was the lead sentence of the story, but there is so much more to it than that, y'all. Every year, the Cortana Kiwanis people put on the downtown Christmas parade, and they do such a phenomenal job. It is a wonderful parade. I mean, an absolutely wonderful parade. But like any parade, they can't control you can't control what the crowd's going to do. And there was something about Saturday night, man, where it was just a lot more raucous than normal. I'm not trying to blame the Devil's Lettuce for anything, but you hit that parade route, and you were getting a contact high. That's neither here nor there. But, okay, I was emceeing the Battle of the Bands. So as the bands roll through, I introduce them, talk about who they are, where they're from, what they're performing, that sort of thing, and then they march on. This is in front of the Raising Cane's River Center, the very beginning of the parade route. As the parade made its way through, it had finished in front of the Raising Cane's River Center and continued on its route, which goes up River Road, then I believe all the way to either Maine or North. I'm not sure how far down it goes, and then up to 6th, and then starts to wind its way back through. You know the downtown route for the Mardi Gras parades. It's basically the same thing, close to it at least. So after the parade's over with, I go to walk my wife and 2 of my kids and a couple of their friends back to the car. And as soon as I put them in their car, I start walking towards my car, and that's when all the alerts start going off. I mean, it was bonkers. BRPD unit after BRPD unit after BRPD unit, all flooding towards downtown Baton Rouge. All flooding toward, I mean, we're talking no fewer than a dozen came zooming up Florida Boulevard. It was pandemonium. It was mayhem. People scattered like crazy, not just at the scene in front of the River Center, not just at the scene by that airplane. You know where that airplane's at, right across the street from the USS Kidd Museum? It was pandemonium there. And I'm telling you right now, while there were reports of 2 injuries, I think you had people treated on the scene as well. Because the number of gunshots that popped off, and look, some of this may have echoed. You know how it is between the water and the River Center. You can hear echoes every time they have the fireworks for the 4th of July. But it was mass chaos, and it was a scene that you never ever want to repeat. Let's get the news. You gave me a 30, and then that was it. Oh, that was a 5. What did the caller want? Nobody reported on that. And when was the Gus Young Christmas parade? don't. What did you look up? Send me the link, please. Gus Young Christmas parade shooting brings up a completely different list for me, and I don't know why. Oh, good. Oh. Yeah, I don't think this is what he was talking about. I didn't know there was a Christmas parade on Gus Young. Oh, here we go. I have no idea. There's nothing on this. And I'm not rolling with somebody that a caller calls in about. Like, I need a better source than that. No offense to the caller, but
What I'm seeing is man shoots own son accidentally in domestic shooting. They're investigating a double shooting.
No.
This happened yesterday. Yeah. If it's that hard to find, I don't know if it's.
okay. Okay, yeah, you're on the right one. I see it now from Unfiltered with Kieran.
Yes.
All right. Yeah, the that had nothing to do with the parade, though.
Right. That's why I was trying to make the connection between what does Gus Young Christmas parade have to do with this? But unless he knows something we don't know.
And that's why we don't. So we reported on it. That was the number 2 story. Balin Rogers.
Yes. Yep.
Going to be unseasonably warm today and tomorrow. What are we looking at as we get closer to Christmas, though? Here's your forecast from Balin Rogers. 40 past. No, it's a two-way hit for him, ABC. I'm supposed to keep it to 5 minutes. 637 Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, Mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. We're going to pivot over to the drones in just a minute with ABC's Jim Ryan. But if I could put a button on the story, we often talk about the difference between being safe and feeling safe in Baton Rouge. And in fact, we had this conversation with Sid Edwards. I want to say it wasn't the conversation before the runoff election, but it was the one before that. And there's a huge difference between being safe and feeling safe in Baton Rouge. Statistically, if you reduce or you remove all the domestic violence and drug deals from the equation, we're not unsafe. So we should feel safe. But our homicide numbers are such that we're never going to feel safe. Then you flip that around and take a look at what happened over the weekend, where you had 3 different shootings, all of which were outside the home, one of which was at the middle of a parade. When you look at it through that lens, going back to the equation of feeling safe versus being safe, you are neither at that point. We'll pick up this discussion at another time. Right now, though, we got to broaden things out, talk a little bit about national news here. What is the latest on the drones up the eastern seaboard? Joining us now is ABC News correspondent Jim Ryan. Jim, how are you, sir?
Hey, Brian, how are you?
I am doing very well. So we're seeing New York shutting down a runway at an airport, New Jersey getting increasingly concerned, now Virginia and Maryland in the mix as well. What do we know about the drones?
Not much.
Okay.
That's the big problem. We don't know exactly, who's responsible for them. We just know that there are a lot of them. A lot of these reports coming in to the federal government, to the Air Force, to local police departments. Keep in mind, though, that there are something like 850,000 drones registered around the country. That doesn't count the ones that aren't registered. Most of them are recreational drones. A smaller number are commercial drones. Mm-hmm. And so, we're seeing this proliferation of drone numbers out there and drone pilots, and so naturally a proliferation of drones themselves.
Okay, when we talk about drones, let's narrow down what we're talking about here, because there's the little ones you throw up in your backyard that have the little camera built into it, and you like you said, the recreational drones that we all toy with and play with and post things to our own YouTube channels. Is this the same thing that we're talking about here?
Well, it could be, yeah, certainly. Recreational drone operators are the ones that have drones that weigh between about half a pound and 55 pounds. That's a big thing, That's a large drone. So even larger ones, the 50-pound ones, are potentially operated by recreational pilots who do have their trust license, the recreational UAS safety test, which they passed with the FAA. And so, and of course, they go up from there. Some big commercial drones that are used on construction sites and for land surveys, that sort of thing, can be even bigger than that. And the ones that have been sighted in New York and New Jersey and up and down that part of the country vary in size, but it's hard to tell precisely because these sightings are made generally at night, and it's hard to get a perspective on how big something is. But keep in mind that if they're flying with their lights on, with the red light on the left, the green light on the right or the starboard side, and they have a flashing anti-collision light, that these are legal and they're not being operated nefariously. If you had weird, nefarious intentions, I think you'd probably fly the thing dark, wouldn't you, Brian?
I would think so, unless you wanted to be hiding in plain sight, if I could go all conspiratorial. But I would think you would want to disguise yourself a little better. How easy is it to confuse a drone with a manned aircraft?
Well, I think it's fairly easy. Depending upon the distance, how far away from you that object is, how small, and the size of it, I could see easily mistaking a little Cessna 152 for a drone. If it's flying far enough away, you can't hear the engine, and it's acting like a Cessna 152 does. Catch video of that, post it on X. Somebody else says, "Hey, I saw something like that." They catch video of their own, post it, and suddenly you've got the makings for this spate of reports.
this is going to be handled differently in different areas since we're seeing more and more states added to the mix. And along with that, Jim, is like not getting a whole lot of information from the federal government, and having a very little bit of information being a dangerous thing in the hands of when is this going to turn into vigilantism? Like, are people going to start shooting down drones that they see?
Well, let's hope not. President-elect Donald Trump has called on the U.S. government to shoot down drones that it sees out there, apparently just to find out who's responsible for them, get a number off them. But you're right. I mean, people going out in their backyards in New Jersey and shooting up at the sky, that's illegal. You can't do that. It's just illegal. So, people taking things into their own hands. I think that so the federal government doesn't know who's responsible for this. That's probably because hundreds and hundreds of people are responsible with their own drones, with their own intentions, whether they're pranksters or out having fun at night, just doing their own recreational thing and being caught up in this whole huge conspiracy. Hard to say, but people are demanding some answers. The feds are talking about deploying some equipment down to New Jersey and New York, which is normally used on airports to find birds, right, to track the movements of birds, which is crucial in safe air operations. So repurpose that out there in these areas where drones are being spotted, track the drones, find out who's responsible, who's controlling it, then, we may have some answers.
Do we know anything about proximity to sensitive areas? And airports would be one thing, but military installations would be a whole other.
Yeah, it would. And you're right. I mean, Boston Logan had to close its airspace for a time, or its runway for a time. But we know of at least 2 military installations in New Jersey. And on Friday night, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Ohio had to close its airspace for a time because of unusually high drone activity in that area. So, that's a highly sensitive. You can't get much more sensitive and restricted than the airspace over an installation like Wright-Patterson. So I think that was some of the thinking was, okay, well, it's just harmless. They're not going near anything sensitive. Well, apparently they are.
In this day and age of immediate information, it tends to lend to fear more often than anything. Has anybody speaking at any of these press conferences said anything about a timeline for when they say we're on it? Is there a follow-up there?
Well, Alejandro Mayorkas used those very words yesterday. He said, we're on it. And, so they're sending people to those areas. They're sending equipment potentially to track these things to try to get a handle on it. So let's just hope that they do come up with some firm answers and fairly quickly. Is it, whether it's one monolith controlling this whole thing or a bunch of folks just out having fun? Let's hope there are answers soon.
Last one before we get you out of here. We got ABC News' Jim Ryan with us talking about the drone sightings. Have any of the conspiracy theories, if you'll pardon the pun, been shot down yet?
Well, I don't know. Like what?
That Iranian mothership, whatever? Right,
yeah. That one, that one was shot down fairly early on, that there was no big Iranian mothership off the coast of the Atlantic. That would be huge if that were happening and if it were behind these drones. But I think it's a confluence of events worldwide happening right now, tensions in the Middle East, right? The sudden proliferation. There is nearly 1 million registered drones in the United States and almost that many registered drone operators. Put it all together and you get this huge, flurry.
Well, if I can open up another can of worms, let's rewind the clock back to the weather balloons coming in from the west.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
There's just...
And then that one was shot down by the government, by the Air Force, off the coast of, I think, South Carolina. So, we'll see what happens.
He is ABC News correspondent Jim Ryan. Fantastic information, as much as is out there. Jim, I always appreciate the time, man.
Take care, Brian.
You too. We're coming up on, we're approaching 647 at Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. So we're going to go ahead and take a break. We'll check traffic. We will check your money now. When we come back, did you hear that story in the news at the bottom of the hour? Senator John Kennedy getting to work for teachers. Cool story coming up, and a little bit more on the shootings around over the weekend. That's coming your way next on Talk 107.3. That's postable, very postable. Simple. What do we know about the drones? And it's featured. Yeah. What do we know about the drones? Yeah. Oh, hell. I forgot to edit the log. You're going to have to bail. After this commercial, you need to go to Your Money Now. We'll play traffic on the back end. Cool. Damn it. Never mind. Just leave it on. Let it play. We'll miss Your Money Now, but play the spot, please. Yeah. Who is this? Yo. Oh. .652 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. 66 degrees in downtown Baton Rouge as we wrap up this first hour of the show. Thanks again to ABC News' Jim Ryan. I got a text during the break there, said he didn't have a whole lot of information. No, he did not. And the thing is, though, that's where the scary part comes in, right? One of the questions I asked him was, are we going to get a timeline on some information? Are we going to get a timeline on how information is going to be funneled back to us? Said, quote unquote, we're on it. Doesn't cut it. And in today's day and age, when you have a populace who has what feels like a world of information at their fingertips, when the truth is they have a world of speculation at their fingertips, that's a dangerous scenario. That's where people take matters into their own hands. And Jim Ryan, he said it right there. He said, it's illegal to just go shooting up in the sky in New Jersey. Yeah. I don't think that's going to stop someone who is legitimately scared about who's on the other end of that drone. I don't think that's going to stop someone from going on a drone hunt, if you will. When there is an information vacuum, that's when fear leaks in. We're on it. I don't think cuts it right there. Anyway, that'll be available on demand at talk1073.com after the show is over with if you wanted to check it out there. Moving back to something more local here, our U.S. Senator John Kennedy introduced a bill that would double the maximum that teachers can deduct from their taxable income for spending their own money on school supplies.
Right now, a single teacher can deduct up to, depending upon the amount spent, $300 for classroom supplies that she or he buys personally and is not reimbursed for. My bill would double that to $600.
Kennedy says teachers spending their own money on school supplies is unfortunately very common.
Unfortunately, many of our teachers do have to to go out of pocket to buy classroom supplies. So the least we can do is let them deduct it from their income tax.
What do you think is the better answer here? First of all, shout out to Kennedy for taking this on. And this is going to be a bill without reward for him. When it's all said and done, saving teachers $300 is, and that's not going to tip any election needles, right? So it's just, this is doing good just to do good. But let's broaden the question out. And I want your comments over on our Facebook Live. We're live on Talk 107.3's Facebook page every day. I want your comments on this one. What's a better answer rather than teachers going out of pocket for supplies? Go out of pocket and then you write them off on your taxes. I know that feels burdensome, but if you break this down nationally, there's not an answer, right? This should be a statewide answer at worst, locally at best. Should there be some form of pool of dollars that the district gives out on the front end? Because if there is, now you got to have somebody working oversight on that, right? Now you have to have somebody who properly doles out the money and then make sure that it's not being ill spent. What better answers are out there? Hop on our Facebook Live. Let me know. In the meanwhile, back to Senator Kennedy. He says it's a shame that we'd have to propose such a bill in the first place.
I would like to live in a world where teachers don't have to come out of pocket to buy classroom supplies for anything. And if it were up to me, I would give them an unlimited deduction.
That would open up other problems as well. I think we're going to walk ourselves into a scenario where there is no real right answer. But from a pragmatic standpoint, I mean, if each individual teacher is buying individual supplies along the way to cover for things in their classroom, wouldn't it vary literally from classroom to classroom? And if it varies that much, then how do you come up with the blanket answer? By the way, Kennedy says that he's introducing the bill mainly to get a head start on it, acknowledging that there isn't enough time in the current session to take it up. So this isn't going to happen this year. You can look forward to this happening next year when Congress reconvenes in 2025. But let me know over on Facebook Live, and we'll talk during the news break when we hit up ABC News at the top of the hour. Do you have your lunch plan set for today? If you don't, might I suggest some of the most fantastic Asian-inspired dishes in Baton Rouge? That would be P.F. Chang's. Okay, if you want to splurge a little bit, might I recommend the Golden Feast. It features Korean fried chicken wings and bubbles. More on that later. And it's perfect for any occasion. You can get it for dinner. You can get it for lunch. Along with the Asian fried chicken wings, do the popcorn chicken and get the sauce flight. There's 4 different sauces that come with it, each of them with their own unique flavors. And it's spicy hot on the chili side, and you got that sweet and savory on the soy side. It is nothing short of fantastic. And if you're not going for the Golden Feast, might I recommend the lettuce wraps? They're a staple over there. I'm a big Mongolian beef guy. There's so many different options at P.F. Chang's. You'll find them in Town Center. Just look for that giant golden horse. All right, we got about a minute left until we have to hit news at the top of the hour here. I don't think there's enough time to dive back into another new topic. But let's throw a second conversation in over on Facebook Live. We were talking about it about a half an hour ago. The shooting in downtown Baton Rouge. You couple that with the 2 people shot on Fairfields. You couple that with the 3 people shot the night before on Choctaw near North 38th Street. These 3 shootings were all out in the public, one of which was even at a parade. When you talk about being safe versus feeling safe, this was a weekend in Baton Rouge where we're neither. But generally speaking, do you consider this the norm? I mean, I know the numbers are going to back you up if you do. Let's talk. Facebook Live. Meanwhile, over on... Pardon me 1 second. I got to refresh here. Meanwhile, over on the air, we're going to hit ABC News coming up in just a little bit. I do need to remind you before we hit ABC News, though, about... Oh, nuts. This will not open for me. Mondays with the mayor. There we go. We've got a weekly conversation with the mayor of St. George. That would be Mr. Dustin Yates. Monday afternoons, 5 p.m. We call it Mondays with the mayor. You can catch the show on the City of St. George's Facebook page. I facilitate it, I guess. I take your questions in. There's a lot of questions to be answered when it comes to launching a new city, and that's exactly what they're doing. So we bring you Mondays with the Mayor, Mondays at 5, right here on Talk 107.3 FM. All right, let's go ahead and take that break for news, traffic, weather. Hour 2 is next. Awesome. Three to 5 p.m. Eastern. Ugh. Oh, Tuesday, January 13th, 9 to 11. All right, let's do that. Oh. Is this right? It's a Monday and a Tuesday, not a Tuesday and a Wednesday. Okay. The hell is question A? Oh. Sorry, I'm trying to book an interview with Newt Gingrich. 7:05. Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Hour 2 coming your way. Brian here with you. John LaBeouf producing. We're starting off our second hour at 66 degrees in downtown Baton Rouge. You know how our Monday 7 o'clock hours roll? Medical Monday with the great folks over at Our Lady of the Lake coming up about 10 minutes from right now. And then we check in with the folks from the Louisiana Association of Business and Industry. This morning, we're going to take a focus on education, as we're going to have, I lost my paper. It's Mary Beth Hughes-Derrickson is going to talk with us a little bit about education wins over the course of the year, and they were numerous, but also that Lobby's got an event coming up in January that we're going to chat about as well. Before we get to any of that, though, top stories and trending. Let's get it.
Number 5.
Number 5 starts us off with actually some good news this morning. We don't have a lot of information on it, just that, there's a happy ending to the story. A man who went missing Saturday was found safe Sunday evening. The man, whose name is not mentioned in the story per WBRZ, suffers from dementia. He went missing from an address on Greenwell Springs Road Saturday afternoon. EBR deputies sent out immediate advisory that he was found last night. So, nice little bow on that one.
Number 4.
The Tennessee-based company that manages East Baton Rouge Parish School properties is trying again to increase their current deal by nearly $1 million 4 months after their first request was set aside. Parish School Board is expected to consider the renewed request when they meet on Thursday. HES Facilities Management of Knoxville is seeking an additional $960,000, calling it a 4% cost of living adjustment so that they can further boost pay for their workers and direct more money to subcontractors to do the same for their employees. If the request is approved, the money would increase the price of HES's services to almost $25 million a year.
Number 3.
3 people were hurt in a Friday night shooting along Choctaw Drive near the corner of North 38th Street. By the way, all 3 of your next 3 stories are going to be about gun violence. Baton Rouge Police Department said 3 people aged 17, 23, and 65 were shot at 9:40 p.m. Officers said all of the victims were in separate cars, unclear where the shots came from. Police are investigating. No more information was made immediately available.
Number 2.
41-year-old Derwin James was killed, and a 10-year-old boy were injured after being shot while inside of a vehicle on North Acadian Thruway and Fairfields Avenue. Officials said a child was transported in stable condition with non-life-threatening injuries at North Acadian and Fairfields, while another person was transported in critical condition. That person later died. According to BRPD, James tried to leave the area after the shooting, but crashed in the 2300 block of Pawnee Street after passing out behind the wheel. BRPD also confirmed the dispute was domestic in nature.
Number 1.
2 people were injured after a shooting on River Road in downtown Baton Rouge by the USS Kidd Museum, according to emergency officials. The shooting was reported around 7:22 p.m. One person was injured with gunshot wounds to the back. Another was hit by an ATV that was fleeing the scene. This all happened as the Christmas parade was. The parade was ending. The parade was nowhere near over with, but the length of the parade, the entirety of the parade, had passed through the area where this was by the time this happened. In fact, it was a good 15 to 20 minutes after the last float had passed before this happened. According to the people at the scene, when it happened, participants of the parade and parade goers started running as the gunshots rang out. When I say they started running, you want to talk about pandemonium, running up Convention, running up Florida. They were dispersing en masse after this was over. This all went down, like I said, by the airplane, by the USS Kidd Museum, directly across the street from the River Center. What's trending, John?
Well, add Bernie Sanders to the list of folks who have a problem with Joe Biden's pardon of Hunter.
Yeah, he talks about the dangerous precedent. When you talk about pardoning people of potential crimes, it's when you talk about pardoning people for things they have not yet been charged with, it's the same as saying you have a get-out-of-jail-free card no matter what. And when you start walking, and for all of his political faults, Bernie's not wrong here. You can't have people who are above the law, and that's exactly what precedent this sets.
No, absolutely. I mean, I'm glad he's actually speaking out about this.
Yeah.
In other news, the drone sightings up the Atlantic coast are moving to the category of drone closings. Drone activity forced runways at New York's Stewart Airfield to shut down Friday night, according to Governor Kathy Hochul.
And you heard Jim Ryan in our last hour say the same thing happened at Logan International.
Yeah.
International, which, look, it's kind of a big deal. Oh, and by the way, Logan's in Boston, so add Massachusetts to the list of states. Like, it's so widespread now. I would have to believe that if this were some kind of organized group of pranksters, they're online somewhere. You're going to find their conversations back and forth somewhere. There's no way this is organic. So if it's not quote unquote nefarious, then man, there's going to be a data trail somewhere.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think the size of these drones is alarming.
Yes.
I mean, they're talking about the size of SUVs in the air. Can you imagine?
We said a 55-pound, I think, was the biggest one.
That's, regardless, I think just the scale of them is terrifying.
Right.
And not knowing, oh my gosh, insane. In sports news, Louisiana Tech will square off against Army in this year's Independence Bowl after Marshall had to bail.
This is my favorite story of the bowl season. Okay, so Marshall lost their head coach to a conference. I don't want to say rival, because Marshall's at the top of the conference and Southern Miss, go Eagles, to the top. Southern Miss at the bottom of the conference right now. Southern Miss made a move to go out and get this guy to help move themselves up the ranks. Good for them. Now, Charles Huff, the coach, leaves. 36 players follow him out the door. Not necessarily through the new doors, but definitely they follow him out the door. So now what you're looking at from Marshall's standpoint is, do we have enough guys to field a roster? We here in Baton Rouge got a good look at, because of the people that have left, all three quarterbacks, or the top three quarterbacks on Marshall's roster, gone. So remember when LSU played the Texas Bowl a few years ago and John Trey Kirkland played quarterback? Remember what a total debacle that was? No, not Kirkland's fault. Dude's a baller. He went out and did his best. But do you want to put your team, do you want to put your program, do you want to put your brand in that situation? And Marshall said no. And Louisiana Tech gets the benefit for it, because Tech versus Army is actually going to be a decent draw. I believe when it's all said and done, the Independence Bowl is your biggest winner here, because now you got Ruston's just a stone's throw away, right? So you're going to get Bulldogs fans in there for big time. And number two, nobody from Marshall was going to travel to see that doo-doo. Like, if they did the makeshift roster thing, nobody was going to follow the thundering herd. It wasn't much thunder. It's just a fun story.
Yeah.
It's 7:12. Coming up on 7:13 to Talk 107.3 FM. Quick break when we come back. Medical Mondays next. Oh, I got to let Dixon's going to be in my seat on Monday.
Dixon.
Yeah.
Time for your weekly checkup. This is Medical Monday, presented by Our Lady of the Lake Health.
It is time for Medical Monday, as we do every Monday, and joining us this week is Dr. Chelsea Conrad, a family medicine physician working for the Mid-City Clinic of Our Lady of the Lakes Physician Group. Dr. Conrad, good morning. How are you?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
No, glad to have you on here today. We're talking about chronic disease management. What is that?
All right. So to me, chronic disease management, it looks at a multitude of factors. So for me, I heavily focus on prevention methods. So making sure patients have the appropriate screening completed for their age group and family medical history. So this involves having regular checkups, and I want to emphasize regular checkups to make sure that everything is being taken care of. Patients are adhering to the lifestyle changes such as diet and exercise. They're not having difficulties with medication, and by that I mean having the ability to afford and pick up the medication, and if they're having any side effects. So I look at a lot of social factors as well, especially in the clinic that I currently work at. I consider income, transportation, housing insecurities that could potentially affect the management of a patient's health. And not to leave out mental health, because that's a really big component of it. So if a patient's mental health is not where it needs to be, then that can affect how they take care of themselves and if they're compliant with the medication regimen and the plan that we have for their care.
All right, so this is sounding very much like an ounce of prevention being worth a pound of cure type of scenario, right?
Wait, I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
I'm sorry. This is sounding an awful lot like an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure type of strategy here.
Exactly. It's easier to prevent something. It's a lot easier to prevent it than to have to deal with it on the other end later.
So what strategies do you employ to get patient buy-in and get them following along with this?
So for me, I try to create an open dialogue. I'm here to educate, make recommendations, but ultimately the patient's in charge of their health care decisions. Mm-hmm. So I like to identify the barriers and help patients overcome them. Like I said earlier about the financial constraints and transportation. And that's why, I have the video appointments. So if you can't physically come to see me, that's okay. We can do the appointment while you're on your break at work or you're at home. And I like to emphasize, like I said before, the importance of just the follow-up too. So I can just take care of any issues that may arise.
Talk with Dr. Chelsea Conrad from Our Lady of the Lake about chronic disease management. When we're talking about chronic illnesses, what type of illnesses are we talking about here?
So I see a lot of diabetes, a lot of hypertension, a lot of depression, a lot of anxiety. So those are the ones I mainly focus on during the discussion today.
Okay. That would involve, to go along with the prevention, a lot of follow-up as well. How do you make sure that the folks are sticking to the treatment plans you've got out there?
So I try to make it easy for them. Before the patient leaves the clinic, they have their appointment set up for them. Mm-hmm. If I want them to go see a cardiologist, I'll call the cardiologist while the patient's in the clinic still, set that appointment up for them so they'll know where to go, who they're seeing, and what time to be there. I try to take a lot of the guesswork out of everything for them. So if you show up, we'll handle everything for you.
So that involves speaking to other doctors along the way. So that kind of walks us up to collaboration. How do you go about collaborating with other healthcare providers or specialists to ensure you've got continuity of care for your patients and everyone's staying on the same page?
So I'm a firm believer in the motto, "A teamwork makes the dream work." So Our Lady of the Lake makes it so easy to contact other specialists if I have any questions about a patient's plan of care. There's an exchange after that. But also, my team, we all work together to make these appointments. So if I order you a colonoscopy, my team and my MA will call the GI doctors, schedule that appointment for you, and I'll send you your prep medication straight to the pharmacy.
It's so thorough. I mean, you've got to be on your game all the time.
It is. It really is a coordinated event to make all these things happen during a patient's appointment.
But there's got to be something on the patient there too, right? So for those who do suffer from these chronic diseases, how do they incorporate preventative care I'm not to say to lighten your load, but to pull their weight?
So, like I say, like I say, I emphasize the follow-up. So if a patient has to be an active participant in their care, and by this I mean, like I said earlier, they need to show up to the appointment. Show up. We make it so easy. Just show up to the appointments, and we will handle all the preventative care measures for them. We'll put in all the orders, make sure everything's set up, and the technology that we have now makes it so easy to keep up with all the care gaps so nothing falls through.
We're talking with Dr. Chelsea Conrad from Our Lady of the Lake, talking about chronic disease management and just staying out front, staying on top of things. I would imagine that technology has played a significant role in your particular areas here. So what do you believe technology, what role do you believe, or roles, plural, I should say, does technology pick up when it comes to managing chronic diseases?
So technology definitely makes it a lot easier to manage chronic diseases. There's literally an app for everything.
Yeah.
Diabetics have continuous glucose monitoring devices now that they monitor their blood sugar levels and readings and record them on an app on their phone. So you no longer have to prick your finger like back in the day. This implant that goes in your arm, so it makes it a lot easier. Mm-hmm. You have these telemedicine appointments now. Like I said earlier, if you can't make it into the office, we make it convenient for the patient. And so you can just do the visit while you're at home or during your lunch break.
The telemedicine is one that, I mean, it's been around for a minute, but it really picked up steam under COVID and it's really stuck around.
Correct. It definitely picked up steam during COVID, and it's here to stay. I think a lot of things are going to be through telemedicine for now.
And I'm not looking for a specific number, but ballpark it for me here. How many telehealth or televisits do you get in a day?
Honestly, maybe 2 for now. A lot of patients still like to come in.
Okay.
I'm not going to lie. A lot of patients still like to come in. They like to have that physical interaction in person. But I will say a lot of my elderly population who can't always come out the house, they actually like the telehealth.
I mean, 2 a day is still 10 a week. That's a significant number there, and it is likely going to grow. But, I mean, it's nothing to sneeze at, no pun intended. It's nothing to sneeze at for sure.
Correct.
Other aspects of technology that we're talking about here, though, you mentioned the blood sugar, the monitors. What else do folks take on their own?
I'm sorry, you broke up a little bit.
Sorry. Aside from the blood sugar monitoring, what else do folks take on their own that that technology has helped with?
Also, mental health. So you have apps out there like Headspace, Calm app that helps people de-stress and reduce that load that they have on themselves.
Very good stuff. Let's talk about it. We're talking about the things that have helped. What about the things that stand in the way? What are the most common barriers that patients face in managing their chronic conditions, and how can you help them overcome those challenges?
And so for me, a lot of things I see in my clinic, number one is having no insurance, that barrier. So fortunately, we have a financial aid department where I work, where they help patients get set up for insurance. And so that helps a lot. The second thing would just be, like I said earlier, the financial cost of treatments and medications. And so luckily, like I said earlier, we have that financial aid department. I can get them insurance. They also have the Good RX card that help patients out on affording medication. Mm-hmm. And then the next barrier is just patients not understanding their condition or its symptoms and how it can affect their life. And then lastly, just patients not believing in themselves that they can make the step to change their chronic conditions. Like I had a patient, a diabetic patient, come in, A1C was 12, which is uncontrolled. Normally at that stage, I wouldn't do injectable insulin. But she told me no. She was like, I don't want to do insulin. I'm going to make all the changes, and I'll come back. My A1C is going to be lower. So we gave her a time frame. I said, come back in 2 months. We'll see where you're at. So not only did she completely change her lifestyle, started exercising, following a diabetic diet, she dropped her A1C all the way down to 7. So we didn't have to do any injectable insulin. So she believed that she can do the changes, and she did it.
Gotta love when success begets success, right?
Yes, sir.
Unreal. Awesome stuff. Hey, between those last two that you mentioned, between not knowing how dire long-term effects can be and not believing in themselves, are you able to use one as a motivator for the other?
Honestly, yes. So when patients come in and they're like, well, I'm having this numbness and tingling down my legs and down my arms, and their A1C is all the way out of control, I let them know, hey, those two are related.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if we can get your A1C under control, that other problem can go away. And so that motivates them because their A1C is not what bothers them, it's that numbness and tingling. And so it helps them focus on correcting their chronic conditions.
All right, so you're located over in Mid-City. If any of our listeners want to make an appointment to see you, how do they do that?
Yeah, for sure. So they can schedule an appointment. They can call me at 225-358-4853.
225, I'm sorry, you said 358 what?
4853.
4853. She's Dr. Chelsea Conrad. Fantastic stuff today. Thank you so much for hopping on board.
Thank you for having me.
It's 728 at Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. We got news coming your way in just a little bit. After news, we'll check traffic. We will check weather, and then we'll get with Mary Beth Hughes-Derrickson from the Louisiana Association of Business and Industry. Talk about some educational wins on the year. Before we do that, though, got to remind you about the folks over at Mathern's. You know where to find them in the Nicholson Gateway Shopping Center, directly across the street from Tiger Stadium. Mathern's is here for your catering. Okay, no, they're here as a full-service grocery store. Don't get me wrong, but it's getting down to crunch time for the holidays, right? We're what, a week and 2 days away, we're 9 days away from Christmas Day. Are you kidding me? Whew. All right, don't overburden yourself. You're hosting the family for Christmas Eve. You're hosting the family for Christmas Day. Hit up Mathern's. Make it a little bit easier. They've got all kinds of party trays right there on the website. Actually, they've got all kinds of party trays on the Mathern's app. It's super simple. Download the app, click on catering and trays, and just peruse through them. Whether you want finger sandwiches, whether you want chicken fingers, you boudin balls, or any of the side dishes. They've got hot trays, they've got cold trays. They've got it all at Mathern's.com, on the Mathern's app, or just swing on by. They're in the Nicholson Gateway Shopping Center, directly across the street from Tiger Stadium. It's Mathern's. Not enough time to get into another full topic here, as we got news coming up in less than a minute. Shout out to everybody who has commented on the educational topic over on Talk 107.3's Facebook Live feed. To rewind the clock a little bit, Senator John Kennedy is proposing doubling the amount that teachers can write off on their taxes for expenses due to buying school supplies. We covered this story late last hour, and I was asking, what's a better way? What is a better way than to say, as it stands right now, teachers can deduct, I want to say it's $300. Senator Kennedy's going to double that up to $600. Well, it's not going to happen for another year, but I want to take note of two different responses that we got over on Facebook Live. One of them comes to us from Byron, who says, I don't think it would solve the problem altogether, but I like the idea of promoting corporate adoptions of schools. See, I love that idea too, but there'll be some schools left in the lurch. If there were a way to pool for like a collective, for like a bigger pool, that would be a definite go. We'll talk more as we get into break. Here's news. I like Keith's answer as well, and just because I want to walk down the path. What if we had better funding for schools so teachers didn't have to reach into their own pockets for classroom supplies? I feel like we've gone down this road a couple hundred times, though. And I agree with you in principle, okay? But it's when the rubber meets the road, the answer starts becoming more. We're going to increase funding for schools by X amount. Okay, cool. How much do you need? Why? We need more. What is more? And it's no matter what more is, it's never enough. And for some reason, it's not getting all the way to the classrooms. So, Keith, I want to propose this. Can we start with an audit? Can we start with a true, genuine audit of where the money is already going? If we could start there, I bet you we can clean out a lot of the crap. Byron says, I could see the school board leasing a couple of the digital billboards to promote those companies. Not sure how expensive that is, but it would incentivize the companies to adopt to get the marketing. I'll take it a step further, Byron. We are required, per the FCC, although I don't think anybody's still employed by the FCC, we're required by the FCC to do a certain amount of community-based programming. I would be open to, and I say this boldly without even checking with management, I would be opening to doing 30-second PSAs about those companies right here on the station and giving it away. How about that? How about maybe Lamar could pony up the same? It's going to be run a house. It's not going to be prime, but there would be value to it. And the same would be true of the billboards. And I bet you BRZ and AFB would get on board too, and BR Proud would get on board too. I bet. All right, I need just a minute to go. I got to clean out my coffee mug because I just got to go empty it right now. You get that buildup of funk coffee on the side, and eventually your coffee gets too bitter to drink. So I'll be back. Debbie says we donate money and a banner recognizing the business on a scoreboard at a local high school. Love that. Yes, it does reach a limited audience, Matt, but it reaches an audience that's dialed in. It's like advertising in your church bulletin. Oh, my goodness. How much longer are we to see temps in the 70s leading up to Christmas? Here's your forecast with Balin Rogers. 737 Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along, 66 degrees in downtown Baton Rouge. Yes, and we are still waiting for a lot of that fog, and especially in some of the lower lying areas, to burn off. Every Monday, we get to visit with the folks from the Louisiana Association of Business and Industry. This week's actually our last conversation before the end of the year because I'm off the next 2 Mondays. So let's talk a little bit about the recap specifically when it comes to the world of education. Let's welcome in Mary Beth Hughes-Derrickson. Mary Beth, good morning. Welcome back. How are you?
Good morning, Brian. I'm glad I get to close out the year with you this morning.
Absolutely. Glad to have you. Yeah, like Edwin Diaz, you are the closer.
Oh, I love it.
Yep.
Oh, hey, I was thinking about you the other day because Juan Soto, Brian.
Okay, so the joke I've been telling, and I'm going to tell it a million times more because it doesn't stop being funny to me. I don't know how long you've been a baseball fan, but this is the way the Mets work out the contract. They're going to pay Juan Soto $1 million a year for the next 765 years.
Oh, my gosh. Well, hopefully they can get a World Series in that amount of time. You know?
Oh, it didn't work with Bobby Bonilla, so we'll try again. In the meanwhile, let's get down to it. Lobby was very active in the educational world this year during the legislative session and outside of it, for that matter, as well. So walk me through a few of the highlights.
Yeah, Brian. Well, this year, Lobby has cared about education reform since our inception in 1975. And so this year was probably the biggest year in Lobby history as far as education wins. The biggest of those was probably getting ESAs across the finish line. So as your audience knows, we've talked a lot about education savings accounts, but that was one of the governor's priorities and one of ours this session. So that was a huge win as far as giving families more opportunities and access to quality education options, and recognizing that not every family has the same education needs. Every student is different. And so this program will give those families the opportunity to choose their own education path, no matter what that may be. That money can be used for a lot of different things. It can be used for private school tuition, but it can also be used for textbooks, tutoring, and many other things. So we're really excited about that. But we're also really excited about the corporate charter authorization bill passing. And corporate charter partnerships are when a corporation and a charter school partner together to offer quality education on their site, or a corporation can donate land or a number of other things for a charter school. So historically, it's been a challenge to get authorized if you're a corporate partner. So you would have to go directly to your local school board. Mm-hmm. The bill that we worked with the Louisiana Public Charter School Association on this year was streamlining that. So now a corporate charter can go directly to Bessie to get approved. So it's expediting the process, and we're really excited about that because those schools offer very innovative and new ways of learning. So we're excited about that. But Brian, probably what I'm most excited about to cap this year off is the new accountability formula, which was not in the legislative session. It was decided by Bessie earlier this summer, and it puts a huge focus on work-based learning for high school students, which is something that our members really care about and they've wanted for a long, long time. It's no secret that the K-12 accountability system was very flawed. School grades were inflated. But now I think I've heard Dr. Brumley mention this a couple times, but with this accountability formula passing, it's going to be one of the strongest in the nation. So we are really excited about that. Just a lot of K-12 wins across the board this year.
We're talking with Mary Beth Hughes-Derrickson from Lobby about some of the educational wins. All right, Mary Beth, let's break these down kind of one at a time here. When it comes to the ESAs, yes, there's private school tuition that's part of this, but I think more than that is we're going to find that what do they call it? Heavy dose tutoring or deep dive tutoring? I don't remember the exact title of it.
High dosage tutoring. That was actually there was a bill on increasing the funding for high dosage tutoring, which is fantastic as well.
I feel like when it all comes down to it, this is where most of that ESA money is going to go because it's the greatest possible net effect with the least disruption of the apple cart.
Yes.
Right? You don't have to remove your kid from a school. You don't have to remove your kid from their friends. You can take that deeper dive without having to uplift them or uproot them and replant them somewhere else.
Well, and Brian, I think a lot of the opponents of education savings accounts have been saying, oh, this is just a voucher program for private school tuition. And that's just not true. We've seen across the country ESA programs that are in place in other states that they are seeing this money being used to meet many different needs. It's not just a private school voucher program. And so I think that we're going to see fantastic progress across the board with Louisiana students. But I think the main thing is your zip code should not determine your education outcome, right?
Right.
You should not you shouldn't be forced to go to a school just because of where you live. This is going to provide so many different opportunities for Louisiana families to make sure that their child gets access to the education that they want them to have.
And the biggest part to me, Mary Beth, is it puts the student first.
Absolutely.
It allows the parent to figure out what is best for the student rather than having the district or a bureaucrat or someone somewhere up the chain who doesn't know the student, who doesn't know how the student's going to react, who doesn't know, like, okay, it's better just to get the high-dose tutoring versus, no, they need to get out of this environment, away from these kids to another environment because I can see what's happening right before my eyes. Like, it puts the parent and the student in control.
Absolutely. And also, just to tie in how all of this kind of fits together, is with this new accountability formula, this is going to, and it's going to take a while. I know that the opponents say that this is going to just tank public school letter grades, but ultimately our public schools are going to be so much stronger after this new accountability formula has time to take root. And so we might not even, ESAs are always going to be on the table, but I'm just saying that the public school system is going to be so much stronger after these new guidelines are implemented. So everything is going to work together ultimately for the good of the student in the end, I believe.
I tell you what, let's skip to the accountability formula right now. I was going to mention corporate charter partnerships. We'll get to that in a second. But with the accountability formula, are we expecting some growing pains?
Absolutely. I think that, look, I don't want to speak for the department. They have said on the record a couple times that this is going to take a couple years to really see the fruits of this new formula, because school systems and businesses have to work out their, internship opportunities and stuff like that. And anytime there's change, there's going to be some growing pains, right? But ultimately, like Dr. Brumley said, this is going to be one of the strongest accountability formulas in the country. And I was speaking with a colleague in another state actually a couple weeks ago, and he said, Louisiana, historically, we've always been in the bottom 10 with education, but we're one of the most aggressive states from our department standpoint on this new formula, all of these education reform wins we've had over the past year. So I was very encouraged by that. We always like to talk about the bad with our state, but we are flying up the rankings when it comes to literacy numbers and other things, other education metrics. And so it's really exciting. We've been, I haven't been doing this very long, but I know that we have been kind of in the bottom tier, and now we're rising up in the ranks. And part of that is the department and their aggressiveness on getting Louisiana students and schools where we need to be. So I'm very excited. As we close out the year, I am very excited on all of these initiatives.
Well, and there's even more reason to be excited, because if we could rewind the clock to when Dr. Brumley took over, he spent his first 3 years digging us out of a pandemic in like 50 hurricanes.
Right, right.
I mean, we tend to forget that we went from COVID to a year with hurricanes where you had so many students displaced because we ran out of letters.
Yeah, right.
So now that he's got his feet firmly underneath him, literally and figuratively firmly underneath him, we're starting to see the movement that we could have been seeing 5 years ago.
Absolutely. And one other win I wanted to mention that kind of ties into your comments, Brian, is the Steve Carter Literacy Program, which is now the Steve Carter Education Program. Yep. There are, and I don't quote me on this, but I believe there are almost 4,000 students on the waiting list for the Steve Carter Education Program. That's a program that last year was struggling to get off the ground. The legislature actually didn't fund that program, and now it is just exploding. So as far as the numbers we're going to see with literacy, with math, with all of our numbers should skyrocket. I mean, that's a bold prediction, but hey, I'm an optimist. Our numbers should skyrocket in the next couple years.
Okay, I want to talk about this for just a minute, but I want to make sure we have time to talk about what y'all got coming up in January as well. When it comes to the Steve Carter educational program, when you couple that with the new accountability formula, is it safe to say that the Steve Carter program, it might have a sunset on it, because hopefully with the new accountability formula, it's not going to be as needed 5 years from now?
I hope not, but this is just an opportunity for parents. It's another avenue for parents to get their child the help that they need.
Yeah.
So I mean, hopefully with the new accountability formula, the system will be strengthened and the quality will go up. But
Right.
I also think that, some students are always going to struggle and they're always going to need extra help. And this is just going to be another opportunity for them.
We got Mary Beth Hughes-Derrickson from LABI for another, got a little bit over a minute and a half. Can you squeeze in what you got coming up in January before we get out?
I would love to. So on January 6th, for your audience, Brian, we are having an apprenticeship summit partnering with C100 to bring in national experts, national business leaders, but also hear from our state officials on how businesses can start their own internship or apprenticeship program. So obviously with the new accountability formula, there's a huge focus on work-based learning and getting students into the workplace. So our event is to, it's the altar call on why you should start your own apprenticeship program or internship program. And it's kind of like a how-to for businesses on starting this. We've gotten a lot of questions from our members. Okay, I really want to do this, but I'm not sure how. So this is their guide to starting their own internship program. So we're really excited about it. We're partnering with C100, like I said. And if anyone in your audience is interested in joining us, you can email me at marybeth.h@lawb.org, and we will get you plugged in.
marybeth.h@lawb.org. I'm going to give you a call later on. We got to promote this a heck of a lot more. So
Absolutely.
I'll talk to you about it later. In the meanwhile, thank you so much for the time, the information, and a wonderful segment.
Thank you, Brian. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you as well. We got Your Money Now coming your way right now on Talk 107.3 FM. Oh, Byron over here hating on the World's best chocolate, world's finest chocolate. Waxy chocolate-covered almonds? Bro. You give me a box of world's finest, man. I'll show you $2 per. Sure. Those almonds are good. By the way, I'm convinced that I'm going to get the rest of the world to call them almonds. Almonds. No, it's almonds, but there's only one L. So spell al, spell all. Should be almonds. However, if you talk about almsgiving, ALM, yes, I get it.
Are you pecans or pecan?
Oh, shut up.
Pecan?
No.
Pecan?
It's pecan.
Pecan?
Pecan.
Pecan.
No call for that.
Pecan.
Shenanigans. Oh. What about salmon? You're right. Salmon, I understand.
I say both.
But
it's weird. It's like Caribbean and Caribbean.
Yeah.
Pirates of the Caribbean, but it's the Caribbean.
It's the Caribbean sea, right. Right.
I'm the same, yeah.
Yeah, and if it's Caribbean Queen.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, it should be salmon. Although salmon is a high school in Slidell, and it's spelled Salmen. They beat the dog out of us for homecoming. You get PTSD from football. When you can beat 77-17 for your own homecoming in the fall of 1994, and it sticks with you by 2024, like 30 years ago. Got my ass handed to me. Salmon had a guy named Mike Sutton, played tight end and defensive end. He went on to play for LSU, and he just manhandled our poor little asses. And I was the third string. Actually, this was my junior year where we played against him, and I was I guess I was fourth string at outside linebacker, and he was playing tight end. And the first two guys got knocked out with concussions. The third guy, coach just get in there. He's like, I don't wanna. I got in for one play, and I looked like a tire track. And then the coach finally got the third string guy to go in. Cold all of a sudden. 756 Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. Hour 2 is almost in the books. Hour 3 is just around the corner. In Hour 3, we're going to talk about everything under the sun with Moon Griffon, and then we're going to talk about car dealerships. How are they doing right about now? When you have so many options online, how are the real brick and mortar, the old school dealerships doing? Coulter McMahen with the Louisiana Auto Dealers Association are going to join us to have that chat. Before we get out of this, before we get out of here for this hour, you heard the story in our news at the bottom of the hour. Late last week, the Department of Health detected the first possible human case of the highly pathogenic strain of bird flu. The state said this person lives in southwest Louisiana. This person is hospitalized. State epidemiologist Teresa Sokol says public risk is low, but there is still public risk.
Humans can get the bird flu if they come in close, direct, unprotected contact with infected animals or their environments, or they have exposure to contaminated cow's milk from infected cows.
What? I know. Sokol says the symptoms of bird flu are not unlike those for human flu.
Redness of the eyes or conjunctivitis, some mild upper respiratory flu-like symptoms such as cough, sore throat, runny nose, stuffy nose. They might also have fever and muscle or body aches and headaches, fatigue.
So how would you, like, okay, if you had all those symptoms, I mean, aren't you just assuming you have flu? And in Louisiana, it was big headlines for the last week now that Louisiana is setting the pace for the nation, basically, when it comes to early cases of the flu. So I gotta wonder, like, determining what, first of all, does it matter if it's bird flu or regular flu? But Sokol cautions that in order for it to be bird flu, the person must have come into contact with an infected animal like a bird or a cow.
If they haven't had contact with an infected animal, then most likely they have some other common virus that we see in our community every year and not bird flu.
I mean, either way, as long as you've got the symptoms, what do you care? Like, at the end of the day, do you care if it's one versus the other? As long as it's knocked you down and knocked you out, I mean, that's the part that matters, right? Oh, by the way, just as a side note, our news partners over at WBRZ posted up this story on Friday, and I tweeted out a link to the story because their graphics department did something absolutely amazing. If you get the chance, either go check out my Twitter or check out, you got to scroll back about 4 pages on WBRZ's website to get past all the shootings from the weekend. But if you see this one, and it says bird flu across the bottom of the graphic, and then they've got all these little like microbes or whatever that would be the disease floating around. And then they've got this chicken that just stares into your soul. I can't describe it on radio. I can't do it justice on radio, and I apologize. But go look at it. It's like I said, I posted the link on Twitter, and they've got it about 4 pages back on their website. This chicken is the main character of Dreams and Nightmares, y'all. Whew, it's rough. All right, we got news coming your way. Hour 3's next. Galen says, back to the Saints game, I think there ought to be a 15-yard penalty for a kicker essentially taking a practice kick, like in a timeout call, or in the case yesterday, delay of game. I'm going to wholeheartedly disagree with that, Galen, because the defense calls timeout to ice the kicker at the exact right time. And if the defense does it right, the kicker's already in stride. And at that point, you're going to get the ball back and everything before the timeout's over with. So they're not slowing the game down. The team calling the timeout to ice the kicker is slowing the game down. So, yeah, swing the leg, take the practice kick, because kicking a field goal is all about routine and repetition. So I'm not going to hate on the kicker for that. I didn't see the case yesterday, though. I missed a good chunk of the game yesterday. So I can't comment to yesterday's occurrence, but in general, if another team is going to ice the kicker, by all means, swing that leg. Follow through with what you were doing. Oh, God. Yeah, I think it is. I think it's on. Wait, Galen's got to follow up. Hang on. It would be a judgment call by the refs, of course. You're not seriously putting more power in their hands. All right. I've seen timeouts called well before the snap, yet the ball is snapped and the kicker gets a practice kick. Ooh. Now you're going to make me walk through this visually, like every scenario has to replay in my head. See, my thing is I'm not a fan of icing the kicker. I got to go grab some notes off the printer. I'll be right back. How long do I have? 2 minutes. Yeah. Yeah. .806 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP Mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. Shout out to Storm for giving me the heads up over on email, and apparently it's still out there. John, you got a call during the break that Stumberg and Corsi's got an outlight. Turn your mic on.
Sorry. Yes.
Okay. Let me see if I can scroll back up to this real quick here. There's a signal out at Corsi at Stumberg. That's the problem there. That's causing all the backups. You got heavy volume, a lot of delays. Yeah, I got the email in our at the beginning of last hour, and I was waiting to hear from Ray in the traffic reports.
Yeah.
So, but apparently the volume's still out there. Corsi at Stumberg. If you can avoid the area, you're going to want to do that. So, but appreciate the caller, appreciate the email as well. And we try to keep you up to speed, literally and figuratively, when it comes to traffic. And you are, no doubt, our best eyes and ears out there. As you're in it, you're seeing it. There's no more real time than what you're going through. So by all means, when you have updates, share them with us. Talk 107.3 is heading back to our nation's capital to celebrate Washington Mardi Gras. Join me and Gordy Rush Thursday, January 23rd and Friday the 24th as we broadcast live from the Washington Hilton for Mornings with Brian Haldane, as well as a special afternoon drive show from 4 till 6 both days. This is handling business the way that only Louisiana can. It's Washington Mardi Gras on Talk 107.3. Busy hour this hour. We got Moon Griffon coming up next. We've got Coulter McMahen from the Louisiana Auto Dealers Association after that. Right now, though, it's time for This Day in History.
All right.
What you got going? What happened
off
today?
In 1773, a little thing called the Boston Tea Party incident.
What?
Sons of Liberty protesters throw tea shipments into Boston Harbor and protest against British embossed Tea Act.
You ever been to Boston Harbor?
No.
Smaller than I thought it would be.
Yeah?
Yeah, smaller than I thought it would be. But you got to remember, the ships back then aren't what the ships today, so It was appropriately sized for its time. But I've been to the site of the Boston Tea Party. I did the whole thing around the whole harbor where you take I didn't do the full walking tour, the Freedom Trail or whatever it's called, but
right.
Dadgummit, man. Yeah, you put yourself in that spot, and it's like, this is like right on top of itself.
Yeah, I mean, So what, you just a little tour of it?
Yeah, I did the self-guided tour, which was worthless.
Yeah.
I want to go back to Boston. I want to take the family to Boston. Yeah.
1950 here, U.S. President Harry Truman proclaimed state of emergency against communist imperialism. So that happened today.
Yeah.
In music news, 1966, the Jimi Hendrix Experience releases its first single, Hey Joe.
Really?
So didn't realize that was the first single from him.
Yeah, me neither.
1973 here, O.J. Simpson becomes the first NFL running back to rush 2,000 yards in a season. O.J.
Yeah.
There we go.
It's so sad.
Yeah.
When you look at the way that history played itself out, it's so sad.
The potential.
A 2,000-yard rusher. He was Nordberg, for crying out loud. I mean, and then he's got to go cover for his son and create a grand conspiracy, you know?
And you might like this one here. 1985, John Gotti assumes leadership of New York's Gambino crime family after ordering the executions of Paul Castellano and Thomas Bellotti.
Yep.
Bellotti?
Yep, that was the famous hit outside of Sparks Steakhouse. That's another one I'd like to go to. I'd like to go to Sparks. Is that still there? I don't even know.
You don't even know, huh?
Don't even know.
Let's see here. What we got here. 2010, final episode of the talk show Larry King Live airs.
Really? Okay. Larry King's an absolute legend.
Yep. Anything else?
Yeah. Well, 1 year before that, Avatar premiered.
Oh, yeah.
And I go down as one of the... I hated that movie.
Really?
Absolutely abhorred that movie.
When it came out. It was pretty cool in 3D.
Did not care for it.
Man.
Birthdays.
Let's see what we got here. Colonel Sanders.
Really?
Actually, nope. Wrong one. Sorry.
Okay.
He died today.
Oh.
Beethoven today. Birthdays.
Okay.
Let's see. Any notable ones? Anybody on your end? I got a lot.
I got plenty.
Oh yeah, what you got?
Oh, first of all, author Jane Austen died today. Okay. I mean, I was born today on this day in 1775. Jane Austen, and then she was born in order to just bore the hell out of high school students for the rest of history. And then I've got two in the world of sports to touch on. One would be Billy Ripken, the other Ripken brother, as it were, and William the Refrigerator Perry.
Okay. All right.
Deaths?
I jumped the gun on it, but Colonel Sanders, yes.
Yeah.
Let's see. John Spencer here. Actor John Spencer.
John Spencer's dead? No, I'm just kidding. I knew that.
Oh.
No, he was in The West Wing.
I know. I looked at. That's why I looked at you like, wait, you didn't know this?
Well, I mean, he died on the show, too. Also, Glenn Miller.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Oh, I had that one as well. Yep.
What national days?
National days. Here we go. Day of Reconciliation. We've got National Chocolate Covered Anything Day.
Okay.
National Underdog Day.
Okay. Well, that's perfect for the Tea Party, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I can go with that for sure.
Let's roll.
It's 8:12 at Talk 107.3 FM. Let's take a quick break, come back, talk with Moon Griffon next.
Hello, good morning, sir. This is John with Brian Haldane. Oh, going well. Looking to have you on here in, I don't know, about 2 minutes or so. All right. Thank you, sir. Also this day, Mariah Carey's single, All I Want for Christmas Is You, reaches number 1 25 years after its release in 2019.
Okay. So I had planned on doing a whole bit about how during the Battle of the Bands Saturday night, there were, I want to say 9 bands in the competition. 7 of them performed All I Want for Christmas Is You for the judges. And I'm like, oh.
And that was their chance. Like, this is Battle of the Bands.
Right.
And they're choosing that. Okay.
And you know who won?
Who?
Well, I don't know who won because when the judging was going on, that's when the shooting was going on.
Yeah. Wow.
Oh, well, you know who I voted for to win?
Who?
Baker High. And you know what they played?
What?
Let's Stay Together by Al Green.
Okay.
Not a Christmas song.
Fascinating.
You're at a Christmas parade and you're not playing a Christmas song, but there was precision, there was formation, there was choreography. They were tight. Baker High was tight. Looked good.
Nice.
Yeah, I forgot to ask who even won. Like, I don't even know if they determined a winner.
Yeah. Considering everything that happened, yeah, it kind of got overshadowed, I'm sure. 2019, Drew Brees breaks Peyton Manning's NFL record for career touchdown passes.
Oh, nice. Galen says Boston's a wonderful historical destination. The Freedom Trail is something any family can do, and it's awesome. Yeah, I was at a conference and didn't have time for it. Like, we were at the convention center that was about a half a mile from Boston Harbor, so I snuck away during lunch to go see Boston Harbor.
Nice.
I did not have enough time to do the whole Freedom Trail because, unlike some of the other convention goers, I actually showed up for the breakout sessions I was supposed to be at. And others, like, come back and they're like, we did the Freedom Trail on a bike. And I'm like, really? I talked about long tail keywords in blogging. Water. .817 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Time to catch up with our own Moon Griffon. You catch him 9 to 11 weekdays right here on Talk 107.3 FM and throughout the state of Louisiana. Moon, how you doing this morning, man?
And Brian, I'm doing good. I'm not doing as well as somebody in the transfer portal getting ready to get a big payoff, and I'm doing pretty good.
Man, have you seen what's going on at Marshall?
Yes, the mid-majors. Yeah, we got a bunch of them here in the state. Marshall, I consider mid-major, playing in the Sun Belt Conference. I tell you what, Brian, they're losing a head coach. And when a head coach leaves a program, especially if one's been successful, man, look what happened with Alabama and Nick Saban. And players dive out. They just dive out as opportunities. They look at it as opportunity. It's a free agency day every day in college football. So, you know, they feel like they didn't have enough players to play. You remember LSU when Orgeron left? And same thing happened. And remember, I think they had 39 scholarship players, and they almost opted out of a bowl. And they ended up playing in the bowl game, and I think they got beat pretty good. But they didn't have all that players. So this is not unusual. We're in the wild, wild west when it comes to college sports.
No, absolutely. And I made that exact same comparison when LSU went to the Texas Bowl and Jontre Kirkland played quarterback. I mean, and Marshall, all three of their quarterbacks are gone. All three of their quarterbacks are in the transfer portal. So they bail. Louisiana Tech gets to benefit from it, which is awesome because now the Independence Bowl is actually a decent draw. I mean, for Louisiana Tech fans, that's not a long drive, to be sure.
Nope.
And you can see them play Army.
No, now, by the way, Army's got a really good football team. So, when I was living in Monroe, Brian, before I transferred portal to Lafayette, we used to go to that all the time. And it was just a fun game. We got to see Alabama, Michigan. Of course, our Warhawks, the only bowl game we ever made. But we got to go see some pretty good talent from around. I saw Michigan play Notre Dame, and I saw Michigan State, I'm sorry. Michigan State played LSU when Michigan State had Saban.
Yep.
And we had fun going to those bowl games. And so I'm glad they filled it up. It's a shame somebody had to back out. But if you lose all your quarterbacks, Brian, you may as well not play.
No, 100%. And if you're the Independence Bowl, you are so happy they backed out because you take a Marshall team without a head coach and losing well over a third of their roster. Nobody was going to that game.
No.
Ticket sales just really maxed out on this one.
No doubt about it. It's good for Tech. It's another school in our state, and you got to pull for everybody, that plays in the state of Louisiana.
Most of them, sure, absolutely. We got Moon Griffon on with us. Moon, now's about the time where your show and mine, we're doing those retrospectives. Talk with folks about what they got done over the course of 2024. What are a couple of your takeaways for things that notably got done in this past year?
Well, we got big changes at the state level and coming in the federal level. Jeff Landry and the Republicans dominated. I still think that they still got so much they need to do. I think we've been so far behind. They did move the needle somewhat in a few items. Tax reform, they better keep moving it though. We didn't accomplish the insurance reform yet, which, by the way, is going to be 2025, either make or break, I think, with the Republicans if they don't move forward. Donald Trump winning the presidency, the Republicans holding the House and winning the Senate.
Yep.
That is the most remarkable story of 2024 in my book. And there's anytime you're transitioning like this, you want to see what they're going to do. And I still think we got to wait and see what the state's going to do. So I'm very hopefully optimistic. I know if you're a Republican or conservative, the last 13 months have been pretty good for you, considering the state elections and the federal elections. I spoke the other day in Shreveport, Brian, and that's what I told them. I said, let me give you all the fun and the good news. If you're a conservative, you're a Republican, you got an opportunity to make a change. Now, will you do that? That's the big thing. But as far as winning, I'm sure people are excited about that.
No, 100%. The insurance reform is an interesting one, Moon, because I don't think we're going to see a special session before the regular session. And the regular session is a fiscal one, which means there's only 5 bills that are non-fiscal that you could file. Are we already looking at a scenario where this one gets lost in the wash again?
Brian, it better not. I think it's the number one issue for the governor and the legislature. You and me know, because we paid a bill. We know a lot of people who can't pay a bill. It's just getting ridiculous. This is the problem of what you just said. Not what you said. You're right on the money.
Mm-hmm.
But the scenario is real. It's real simple. You better fix it now because it's going to take weeks, months, and maybe a year or so to really kick in. You've already went through a year and nothing got done. Now they did a little bit on the homeowner side. Let me give them credit.
Sure.
But on the one that needs to be fixed is on the liability and the tort reform and the vehicles and trucking companies and all that stuff. You can't wait. Every day they wait is another day missed, and another company could leave the state. I think you can do tax reform and you don't get this insurance right. Tax reform may not help you bring business in.
Oh, it certainly narrows the scope of what businesses you can bring. I mean, we've seen in the last couple of weeks 2 major announcements about AI data centers moving to Louisiana, which is great. It's going to provide a nice little punch for the localities where they're going. But when it comes down to it, it's limited in scope of the number of employees who are going to be working there. And it shows that, well, first of all, it shows that Susan Bourgeois is going after who she can get first, right? But beyond that, it's kind of glaring to say, oh, if these are our big wins coming out of these 2 sessions, then you got to dig your heels in and work with a limited roster for 2025.
No, I think you're right on the money. Look, we have so much to fix. You can't fix something in one day.
Right.
They got to keep working on it. But the insurance thing is devastating, Brian. It's been devastating to people. And there's no end in sight. I mean, people are getting pissed. Look, I had 20% increase. I mean, you can't have a 20% increase every year. Is your salary going to match a 20% increase every time it goes up?
No.
Most people are going to say no. They're not getting 20% increases every year. This is real. This is really hitting home. So, in my example of fixing it is let all the trial lawyers, and what I mean by that is all the political ones, come to the Capitol with the governor and legislature, let them fix it. I mean, everything that we try to do, they say it won't work, and they fight it. That's a fact. They fight everything. When they tell us what the solution is, where they can still make a living. We got insurance companies that come in here, and they got competition, and then people won't have to pay as much for premiums. Everybody wins. So let the law. Look, I got a lot of trial lawyers that are friends, but they're not political. They're not involved in running to the Capitol and spending all that money.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, they just doing their job. So why don't we let, and I ain't going to mention no names, why don't we let some of these big shots come in and tell us what to do? And my prediction is they're not showing up to meetings now. They're not going to show up at the meetings if you bring them in. They're not. Because they don't want to fix it. They're doing quite well.
Well, yeah, it's not broken from their end.
Nope.
I mean,
why should they fix it? But yet every time we try to do something from a legislative side, they say that ain't going to work, and they beat it down.
All right, okay, so let's stick with that, though, because now we're talking about specifically, like, not to get too in the weeds, but the collateral source bill from last time. It passed both sides, and then the governor vetoed it. But the governor vetoed it in his first year, when he was still in that honeymoon period, when he still has all the momentum, when he still had a heavy freshman class that wanted to be on board with rowing the boat in one direction. Now, we've moved a lot, we've moved across a lot of water by rowing that boat. But if we bring back up the same legislation again, and it passes again, what's the likelihood that a legislator or a handful of legislators are going to say, you know what, this is the process. The governor is going to veto this again, but it's up to us to override said veto. Can we see history repeat itself, but this time with an override?
Well, this is what I believe. If they pass the exact same bill, Jeff will veto it. There's no doubt in my mind.
I agree.
Okay? But I'm going to go back to what you just said. If he vetoes it and the legislature passes it with a 2/3 vote in the House and Senate, they have no choice but to come back and override it. Now, the governor won't be happy with that. But I don't think that's the only thing they need to do, Brian. There's a lot of other bills that's out there that they killed. I think they're going to have to pass a package, and that's why a special session on just insurance makes sense. The other thing is we will now find out who's on whose team. We'll find out who's really getting something done and who's not. And that's why I like votes and I like voting records, because now we know where you stand.
We got Moon Griffon on with us for a couple more minutes. He's coming your way 9 to 11 weekdays here on Talk 107.3 FM and statewide. Our last conversation of the year, Moon. I'm going to be off the next 2 Mondays, so I'm sure you're.
I hope you are, and I hope I am too.
You better be taking some downtime because we're hitting 2025 strong. So that's where we're headed next. Is what do you see on the horizon for insurance reform aside? We get that one's a must. What else do you see on the horizon, statewide and nationally in 2025?
Well, I think what they're going to have to worry about nationally, if this DOG, Department of Government Efficiency, or whatever they call it, does their job, I think you're going to see states not get the money that they've been getting. And if that's true, the states have to deal with shortfalls bigger than they think. But the federal government has to start cutting, and the state government has to cut. If, Brian, I'm going to tell you what, they can talk about tax reform all they want to. If they're not going to cut any state spending, you're not doing real tax reform. You have to cut. We are in trouble in the country financially with inflation and printing of money and giving money out to places that shouldn't go. So I think out of everything that we're going to see in 2025, this has to be one of the biggest things that the President Trump, Congress, and state governments have to realize. The gravy train's over. We need to stop it now. It needs to be done for the next 10 years like that to get us back into a sound fiscal policy where me and you, when we go buy a vehicle, we can really afford a vehicle. When we go to the grocery store, the food bill ain't running crazy.
Right.
And to me, that's the most important thing that we'll do. By the way, one other thing, Brian.
Go for it.
Not to wrap up on the deal, because I know you have him on. I read an All Eyes on Louisiana's Bill Cassidy. He's the head of the department that's going to interview RFK Jr. for Trump.
Yeah.
And I'm laughing because Cassidy has no choice. If he really thinks he can win, I think he has no choice but to move Trump's appointments forward. And if he doesn't move them forward or vote for him, I think you will see a guy that won't run.
I see. Yeah.
I think it's that big for him to get online because he can't beat Donald Trump in 2 years. He's not going to beat him.
No, but I do think 2 years is enough time to mend fences. But he's got to come clean with not the first impeachment vote, the second one. There's a reconciliation that has to be had there.
Well, I'm going to tell you what, it's the only chance. I think Cassidy's done. The only chance, you just said, if he don't get what Donald Trump's not involved or don't care about his election, but his problem is, in a closed primary, most conservative voters are going to vote. The Trump voters are going to vote. And that's why he has a big problem.
Yeah.
I saw polling numbers that has him in the low teens. I've seen it. Talked to somebody out of Washington on Thursday evening. Same thing. They said, you ain't missing it by much at all. So I just think he's got problems. I don't know if in 2 years he can do it, but I agree with you. 2 years is a lifetime in politics.
Yes, it is. And I will say this. 2 years is a lifetime for multiple sharks to smell blood in the water. And the more sharks you have in that frenzy, the more likely he is to survive it, oddly enough. Because you're going to have everyone's going to pick everyone apart.
Primary, you got to get 50% plus one. So if you get in a runoff, you still got to beat another Republican.
Yeah.
It's kind of tough to do.
No, I'm with you. I'm with you. But watching the potential Clay Higgins versus John Fleming battle is going to be brutal. Because now,
I'm not sure. I'm not sure Higgins gets in. I think Higgins got a hell of a job now, and I just don't know if he's going to want to lose that. But that's just me.
We're going to have some fun next year, aren't we? Have yourself a Merry Christmas. Oh, good.
Remember this, 18 months we're voting in a closed primary. It's not as far back as we think.
No, I know. It's going to be here before we know it. He's Moon Griffon.
All right, bro.
Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. We'll talk to you in 2025.
You too, Brian. God bless, brother. Have a great one.
You too. Here comes news. Nah, it's just hard for me not to get fired up about shit like that. That is legitimate. I hate politics so much. But talking with that fired me up. Galen says the cost of inaction is huge. A major cause of unaffordable homeowners insurance rates is the delay in implementing fortified roof code. Florida did it in 2003. Other states did it in 2010. Yet Louisiana thought it was too expensive and failed to pass the laws. Shame. Because it was expensive. It was expensive, and we're just now getting caught up. The difference between expensive and too expensive, I think, is where you're at, Galen. They should have looked at it through a different lens of I don't think they expected the math to be what the math was. Is that fair? I'm excuse making for them. I need to shut up. You're right. That's a nice little journey we went on just right there in my mind. Sorry. You're right. Expensive versus too expensive was the thing. Good God, I just talked myself in a circle. Oh. how about Catholic High being one play away from winning a state championship? Huh? I mean, obviously, if Catholic had beaten Edna Carr, Catholic would have run roughshod over Alexandria as well. Too expensive to the builders and buyers of new construction. Oh, that's where the Van Buren boys joke came from. Now I get it. Okay. Print the shirts, the Van Buren boys. Yeah. It's a Seinfeld reference. I wonder if there was a way to like finagle that though, to where like the fortified roof program that we have right now, the grants that we have right now go to replacing roofs. I wonder how you would manage if not a pool of money, some sort of building incentive on the other end to say, because yeah, if you're building out an entire subdivision, that shit gets expensive. I don't know. What would be the answer right there? Like that. The state shouldn't have to pay for it. But then the individual builder, the contractor, shouldn't have to pay for it either. Like, off on Monday, this is the standard, and on Tuesday, the standard costs twice as much. $840, I believe. Oh, you know what I need? I need a massage. I'm going to go for a massage when I take off. I can't afford a massage right now. Just too expensive. But I've been carrying like everything, carrying all my stress in my muscles. Yes, there's muscles here. This is Brian. I'm good, Coulter. You called my cell phone, though, man. Can I get you on the hotline instead? Yeah, and I corrected her on the back end, so I guess it didn't make it all the way through. Here we go. 225. We're at 8:37 at Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Time for us to get a look at your forecast real quick. And yeah, It's going to be nasty for a couple days, y'all. Unseasonably warm for today, tomorrow, and Wednesday, to be sure. Now, you do have a 40% chance of rain today, and there's not going to be much sunshine tomorrow, if any, and a little bit on Wednesday. Then it's going to get cold again. Okay, so today's high 77, overnight low of 63. Tomorrow's high 79, Wednesday's high 74. Now, from Wednesday to Thursday, you got an overnight low Wednesday of 49. Your high Thursday is 66. Your overnight low Thursday and a Friday is 43 degrees. We're going to top out at 64 on Friday, 57 on Saturday, and it's going to stay in the 50s. Well, goodness gracious, it's looking like it's only staying in the 50s for 2 or 3 days. We're going to be back up into the 70s for Christmas Eve and Christmas Day if everything holds the way it is right now. Right now, though, it is cloudy and 67 in downtown Baton Rouge. Keep it going. Talk 107.3 FM and Citizens Bank and Trust are bringing you the ultimate holiday gift with our Home for the Holidays sweepstakes. Imagine 2025 with your rent or mortgage covered up to $18,000. We're here to make your holidays a whole lot brighter. Just sign up at talk1073.com and you can be living stress-free next year. The winner will be notified on December 20th. It's 8:38 at Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Study came out last week. At least that's where I picked up on it. And the headline reveals, traditional franchise dealerships deliver greater savings and value for consumers compared to direct-to-consumer and hybrid sales models. Joining us now to talk about this is Coulter McMahen from the Louisiana Automobile Dealers Association. Coulter, good morning. How are you, man?
Hey, Brian. Good morning. Thanks for having me on.
No, glad to have you on. Glad to be talking about this because it's not that often that you see real life fight back up against the internet and win. So let's roll. Tell me everything this study revealed.
Yeah, man. We were so NADA commissioned this study with a global consulting firm, Oliver Wyman, they sent out the report about a month ago, and it really it confirms what we in Louisiana and dealerships kind of across the country know, and it's the value that the traditional franchise model provides as compared to a hybrid model or direct to consumer model. If you look at the study, I mean, there's a number of different data points that this study analyzed from every single distribution model. But, really when you think about it, is a dealership is 5 businesses within one, and you're able to get all of those services at one place. And that was an important aspect of it. And you also really just consider that what dealerships, the reinvestment that dealerships have within their local communities that no other model can really mirror. So, it was a very comprehensive study that NADA commissioned with Oliver Wyman, just looking at a bunch of different data points. So, that we're happy to be able to announce the results of that study, because I think public sentiment they don't always realize that. So glad to be able to share on your show this morning.
No, glad to be sharing it, because I think it's fantastic news for local economies, to be sure. But for just a moment, let's walk through who the competition is here. Give me an example of what is a direct-to-consumer and an example of what is a hybrid.
Yeah, so your examples of direct-to-consumer would be your Teslas, Rivian, Lucids. Your hybrids would be, I believe, your Carvana, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But really the DTCs are the ones that I mean, I think that a lot of the public sentiment is, why can't you, why direct sale is more cost valuable to the consumer, and this study clearly disputes that. And so I appreciate you having us on this morning to really highlight that.
No, 100%, because you pounded over the head with the advertisements for the direct-to-consumer and for the hybrid models, and it has this appearance of convenience. But what gets lost in the wash here is that a vehicle is not a small purchase. A vehicle, you're talking about, like you said, having that all-in-one benefit and being able to finance under that same roof, being able to physically put hands on the car. I mean, the test drive feels like it's a long since forgotten crucial part of the process.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's missed. I mean, you raised a great point that it's arguably going to be the second largest purchase you make in your life. So, I think most people still want to touch their vehicle instead of just clicking online and then going, not being able to ever test drive it. I do know that and we may have discussed this last time I was on the show, but there was a study that recently looked at that, and baby boomers still wanted to go into the dealership. Millennials, my classification was not as was a little bit more hesitant going into the dealership, but then the Gen Z group likes to touch it. So it's an interesting dynamic, the three different age groups, and why they want to do this, why millennials want to do that. But certainly after COVID, I think everybody was ready to get back, touching things and interacting with people.
Oh, no, 100%, 100%. From a millennial standpoint, I think the timidity towards negotiating was probably the sticking factor right there, is you had what appeared to be a lower sticker price via online, but when you add up everything that goes into from start to finish, your back end price, your as they used to call it, your off the lot price, ended up being higher.
That's right.
So walk me through where all those little suddens onlys would pop up to make that change.
Say that again, Brian.
If you could walk me through how all those suddens onlys from your initial sticker price through your off the lot price, that's where I'm not calling the websites a bait and switch, but it was definitely a different price on the end. How did we get to that number?
Yeah, so if you think about getting to that number, you look at interest rates that Ford Credit or GM Financial is able to offer that other places are not able to offer, different rebates that companies are able to offer, really just competition between the different brands in your local communities, trying to beat one another for your business. But then you get into the F&I aspect of things where you have finance and insurance. And so there's ways to be able to provide, value to the consumers at that part. And then you look at the back end of things and its parts and service, and, there's different incentives that the dealerships are able to offer, whether it's free oil changes or free tire rotations as part of the package.
100%. And that service into this is part of a relationship into this. And at the end of the day, you can't have a relationship. The internet's not going to love you back the way that a local dealer can show that they love you back, because they're here. They're here in our backyard. They're part of the community.
And that's right. And look, you hear stories all the time. I just heard one recently from one of my dealers in Lake Charles about, I think it was Christmas morning, and one of his consumers had an issue with the car, and on Christmas morning he went to that person's house and switched out the car for him. That's service that is not necessarily there with a direct-to-consumer or hybrid agency model. These dealerships, they know their local communities, right? And will go above and beyond to get new business or keep the existing business.
So what does LADA take away from this? We're talking with Coulter McMahen from the Louisiana Auto Dealers Association about how the traditional franchise dealerships are serving their people better, and they're actually more popular than the hybrid or the online direct-to-consumer models. So what do our dealerships need to do to make sure they're staying on this path, that they're doubling down on this success?
Yeah, it's just really committing to the consumer and still offering a great product, which each and every single one of them offer day in and day out. And I don't have to say this, they know this. It's to stay involved in your local communities, whether it's at T-ball games or, different philanthropic organizations that they support. Their presence in their local communities are what really helps. One of the really important pieces that helps drive, their success, because they're job creators and people in the community know that.
No, 100%. It's important for us to look for them too. When they show up, like say they show up supporting a 5K race, you got to sift through that logo soup on the back of the T-shirt to find your local dealer. But I guarantee you, they're there.
It's there. That's right. That's right.
if we could, I got about 2.5 minutes left, Coulter. Could we take an
Sure.
overall look at how 2024 played in the auto dealers world in Louisiana?
Yeah, man, it was a busy 2024. It was, with 3 special sessions, one general session. We had some bills that in the general session that we were ultimately successful in defeating. I'll tell you, the most important bill, the most important item for the dealerships was this inventory tax credit. And the inventory tax, which obviously local communities that collect inventory taxes, dealerships have some of the highest inventory taxes in the state. And it was important to us to retain that credit in the event that the local communities continued collecting inventory taxes. And so we worked with the governor and his administration, Secretary Nelson, all the legislators, just really educating them on how important this credit is and how devastating it would be if it was somehow repealed. And ultimately we're able to keep that in place for pass-through entities, LLCs and S-corps indefinitely, and for C-corps for the next 2 years. So that was a real important piece to 2024, something that we can really write home about, is making sure that these small businesses retained a credit that would have ultimately resulted in about a little over 6-figure loss on average for most dealerships.
Last one before we get you out of here. Are we able to finally say that COVID's in the past? And how all the problems we went through? We went from the pandemic to the supply chain issues, to the quote unquote recession, to inflation. Where are we right now moving into 2025?
Man, I think that everything is, for the most part, from a dealership perspective, everything is back to normal. They're ready to sell vehicles. I think that you'll see a little bit of, from the reports I've read, there will be growth in 2025. It won't be significant growth, but certainly growth. And so, yeah, I think we're certainly on the back end of that in terms of distribution and inventory. So, dealerships are ready to get you in a vehicle, and service any sort of vehicle that they can.
He is Coulter McMahen with the Louisiana Auto Dealers Association. I appreciate a couple minutes. Have yourself a Merry Christmas, Coulter. We'll talk to you in 2025.
Hey, you too. Thank you, Brian.
Always, always. Here comes your money now. I was hoping to get out with a minute to spare so I could say, as much as I love this report, I want to put off buying a new car, which is why I go to Vex European. But I can do that in the last segment as well. I really shouldn't be this cold, man. I know. Is that Perfida? What? Hey, Scott. Going well. Yeah. Hey, did you go to the Zydeco game Saturday night? No? Well, you'd have been safely inside the stadium by face off was at 7 and 7:05. The shooting happened at 7:20. So, yeah. Right outside the River Center where they have that walk that goes across to the other side. That's where I was. During the no. We got out of there at roughly the same time as the hockey game started. So I walked Christy back to her car, and then I walked to my car from there because we show up at different times. And then as I got to my car, I was like, you know what? I don't think I ever got who won the Battle of the Bands, which I'm supposed to do a video on to make the announcement and post it on Talk's Facebook page. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to have them text me the winner of the Battle of the Bands, and I'll do the video from home. I got in my car. I made my way over to Florida Boulevard, and no. I was out in front of the people running. I saw more than a dozen units heading the other way, and I'm like, well, I need to find out what the hell just happened. And I missed this by 5 minutes tops, 10 minutes tops. Danny Fields was still on the scene, and he's like, dude, it was the scariest shit because you never knew. You got the River Center and the river, so everything echoes and bounces. You don't know where the shots are coming from, and it's like that was the thing of nightmares, man. I'm going to ask that they do a daytime parade. Wow. Yeah, Merry Christmas. .856 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. One segment to go here before we hand off to Moon Griffon and the Moon Griffon Show. Man, thanks to everybody for hopping on board today. Been a busy show from start to finish. By the way, thanks in our last segment to Coulter McMahen from the Louisiana Auto Dealers Association. I'll tell you what, though, he's looking forward to a busy 2025. My guy Vinny is helping me not get in that mix. If you drive a European vehicle and you've made the investment into that European vehicle, you need to suggest Vex European for your repairs. And not just the big stuff, the day-to-day repairs, the oil changes, the brake jobs. And when that weather gets a little colder and you hear those belts start to go squeaky, squeaky, hop on VexEuropean.com, V-E-X, VexEuropean.com. Get a look at the vehicles they service, and you'll be paired with a master technician for that vehicle. Same day or next day service is available as well, so you're not waiting forever to get in there and get your car up to speed, literally and figuratively. On top of that, check out that specials page real quick. In fact, first time customers, you get yourself $100 off the top like that. It's at VexEuropean.com. Man, we also talked a lot today about the shooting on Saturday night out at the parade route for the Christmas parade. And just, I was talking about it during a break just a minute ago with a coworker here. Just the chaos, the mayhem. It was the stuff of nightmares, y'all. As there were reports that as many as 30 shots rang out. And the news is saying that, you had one person injured with it by being shot and another person got run over by an ATV. But I think that's just those that had to go to the hospital and not those that were treated on the scene. But put yourself back in that spot right there. You're on River Road. You're in between the River Center and the levee. The shootings, the gunfire was on the levee side. So just the amount of chaos, of reverberation of sound, and everybody panicking, screaming, running all over the place, and you hear shots and echoes. Like if you've ever been down there for the fireworks, between the water and the buildings, you get all kinds of echo and reverb right there. Man, when you add gunshots that are on ground level, or when you exchange that noise for gunshots on ground level, it was the stuff of nightmares on Saturday night, to be sure. All right, we got 1 minute. Let's get the outside in. We're going to start off in Iberville Parish. Plaquemine residents were in the dark last night after a truck ran into a utility pole. City officials said the crash happened along Bayou Road near Oak Street around 8:20 p.m. Large part of the city was in the dark till about 9:30, and, well, it continued on into the night to get everybody up and restored. Heading over to Lafayette, where a Buc-ee's is on the way, y'all. Buc-ee's has chosen Lafayette for their latest location of stores along I-10. They're going to spend $82 million on the project. $12.5 million is for public infrastructure. Site work and construction is expected to begin early next year. The Buc-ee's should be open in the second quarter of 2026. Closing out in New Orleans, first responders are keeping a close eye on a building in the CBD at Lafayette and O'Keefe. It's a 3-story building. It partially collapsed on Saturday evening. Sunday, Entergy crews shut down power, and they're keeping a good look on this one, as this is not the first building to start to crumble in the CBD. That's it for us. Moon Griffon is next. Okay, guys and gals, thank y'all so much for playing along today. We'll be back at it tomorrow as the countdown is on towards the end of the year for us. I'm going to tell you right now, next Monday, we got Dixon McMahen. Tuesday, best of. Wednesday, I believe we got AB. No. You know we got coming your way on Wednesday? No. I can't spoil it. We're going to do something special on Wednesday that we've never done before. And I know this should, I fall on my face every time I try to do something new and exciting. I don't care. I want to do something new and exciting. Christmas morning will be something new and exciting. Then on December 26th, we got David St. Romain. 27th, right back to Dixon. December 30th, Haggai will be in. December 31st, best of. January 1st, ABC's Year in Review. That's what we got going on, and then I'll be back strong on the 2nd. So, in the meanwhile, there's so much to close out before we get there. So, jam-packed show coming your way tomorrow. We'll see you then.